Hello everyone, and welcome now to part 2 of my project with Victoria Designs using the Wonderland Adventures paper. Now if you've seen part 1, you'll have already seen this box being made, the magazine style box, and now we need something to go inside it. So what we're going to do is we're going to make 2 of these albums. So here's the first one. So let's get going on making another one. So to start with, you're going to need 2 pieces of your grey board cut at 6 3/4 by 9 inches. I'm using 1.5 mil here and a spine piece which measures 9 by 1 1/4. So I know you've probably got your own method for covering your album covers and your preferred methods. So some might want to cover this in paper, but I'm going to use some frame tape, which is used in making the photo frames. So it's acid lignin free and good for our crafty projects, so because it's designed to work with photographs and things. And I got mine from the CoolKatz. So if you want a link, I will put one in the description below. So that's all I'm doing with my tape is I got the sticky side now facing up. And I'm going to take my grey board and stand it upright. And I'm going to place it just halfway along the bottom and place it down the middle of my tape. Then I'm going to extend my tape and turn my cover onto it. So I'm keeping it nice and taut and placing the next piece on top, extending my paper again. So it is quite strong, but you still need to be quite careful because it does tear. And if it does tear, it's not a problem. You just restart where you finish, you just overlap. So let's go again. And then we're almost back, so let's just make sure we got a bit of an overlap. Let's cut off that last bit. And now with this last bit, I'm just going to bring it over to meet. Now it doesn't have to meet exact. So there we have our tape just wrapped around the edge. So now we want to make sure it folds flat. So what I'm going to do, if I try and get one of the corners in view, I can pinch my tape so I know that's where the corner is. And I'm going to cut just towards that chipboard and then just cut the V out. Make sure I take the tape off, otherwise it'll stick to everywhere. So if I have a look at what I've done, that's my tape. So I've cut out the V just towards that corner of the grey board, and I just carry on going around all 4 corners. You have to be quite careful here because remember now your tape is still sticking out underneath, so just hold in the centre of your chipboard. So I've done all 4 here. Flip it over and just repeat again. One, 2, 3, and 4. So now we've just mitered all those corners of our frame tape. So I'm just going to take my finger and I'm just going to run it along. So if you've watched the box tutorial, this is exactly the same as I did when we prepared all our pieces. I'm just sort of pinching the edge, make sure I got contact, and then pressing it down by holding the middle and drawing out. So I'm just rubbing it on to get that contact, rubbing sort of over and back, just gently pinching it. You can see that gives me a nice crisp edge then that way. Then I just pinch down on the middle and just pinch down and work out from the center like so. And again, just repeat on the long edges. So I'm just making the contact, getting that nice sharp one, and then pressing it all down. Now, as I said in the box video, it does take a little bit of practice. Don't panic if it's not smooth the first time, because what you can do, just take your Teflon tool or your bone folder, and as you press it down to burnish it down, it'll actually flatten any creases and give you a nice smooth finish. Okay. But again, if you wanted to do your regular cardstock cover, you can. And I know Victoria Design's got quite a few tutorials on how to do that way, so this is just showing you an alternative. So I'm going to move this out the way. I need the space so I can draw out my tape. So again, I'll show you at proper speed now to show you how quick this method can become. So just wrapping around again. Oh, it's rolling back. There we are. So just make contact there, we'll lift it up. Cut off the excess. Cut up my V's. The thing that takes me the longest is getting the V's off my scissors. Because you don't want to leave them on the scissors, because it will stick when you're trying to cut out the next one. And then when you've got the sticky of one tape sticking to the other, it does become a bit of a nightmare. Another one. Okay. So now just pinch and press, pinch and press, pinch and press, pinch and press. So I've put a couple of wrinkles into it this time just to show you. Once you get your Teflon tool and you rub it, those wrinkles have gone. See that? Another couple of wrinkles here. So we're just going to use our Teflon tool, and we got a nice smooth edge. Let's do all four. And the back. So we've got our two covers done. Now with the spine, you don't need to cover it all, but you will need to just take about an inch or so and just tape over the top and over the bottom. You will just see a tiny bit there, so we're just going to cover them up, burnish it down. So it's covered thing, so that bit is just to make everything nice and neat, to give us a nice neat finish. But this tape is also going to make our hinge. So for this, I find it easy if I just turn it that way. I'm going to cut my tape just with a couple of inches each side. this one out of the way for now. And I'm going to just lay it flat on my table, sticky side up. And I'm just bringing my cover and I'm putting it so it's just running down the center of my tape. And now I'm going to take my spine and I'm going to line it up with the corner of my cover. Now when you're making your cardstock cover ones, you're looking for that double gap, the double of the thickness of your chipboard. Well, that's what I'm doing now. So by placing one on top of the other, I've made my chipboard double the thickness, and I'm just tilting it towards me, pressing it on so I get some contact, and bringing it down. I'm just pressing in the middle, not at the edge, because I might squeeze my tape down. Then when I open it, just tease it back apart and bring it over. So now you'll see there is a space in between my black cover chipboard and my spine. And over. And again, I'm going to do the same. Just turn it this way. Placing it down the middle. Now I realise usually I only just cover 3 sides, the 2 short and the 1 long. I think I just got a bit carried away with the 4th side. You only need to do 3 because this black spine tape will cover the 4th. I think I got carried away because I was doing the box earlier, so where I was covering all 4 sides. So yeah, you only have to do 3, and that'll actually make it a bit easier for you to see. So what I've done now is lined up my cover onto the spine. I'm holding everything together, pressing it down, pulling it apart, and over. There we are. And now we're just going to take the tape and we're going to cover those gaps. This gap. So this is why you don't really need to cover that 4th side. Why I did it, I have no idea. As I said, it's probably because I've been on the box method and I'm still in that mentality. So let's just burnish that tape down. Just again, we can get rid of any wrinkles and then just bring it up. And what you now have, if I show you, so this is the inside of my album, but my outside is all nice and neat. So there we go. The cover is done. So let's add our spine hinges in. So for that, I'm going to need my cutting board and I will need my scoreboard in a second. And for my spines, I need to cut at 8.5 inches. And then a little tip is, if you've got 8.5, go back just a hair's breadth. Then your pages will slide on a bit easier later on. So 8.5, you want one at 2.25. And one at 1 3/4. Now, because we're going to be making 2 albums, but already made one, you can carry on now and do your second ones out of that same sheet. That'll save you time. And grab your scoreboard. So with the long side down the left-hand side, just going to take my score tool, and I'm scored half. All the way down. 1/2 inch and 3/4. Now if you want to also make a little dash at the 1, you can. So 1, 2, it's just 2 more slots across. That will also help you line up your second spine later on. This one when you put it on top. So I've just turned it around. I'm just going to repeat. 1/2, 3/4, a little dash at 1, and go across to do a little mark there. So those 2 dashes, they are where we're going to actually place our next spine, which is this one. So we're going to do the same. 1/2, 3/4, flip it around, 1/2 and 3/4. That's just easier than trying to work out all the other ones. So here we go. So we're going to take our Teflon tool. We're going to score those 2 1/2 inch ones and the 3/4 inch ones. So you've got that shape, but what we want to do with these 1/2 inch ones on the end is train them back as well. So that will give us that hinge method to open our pages. So just train them in both directions. And the same with this one. Now this one can be a little fiddlier because we've only got those 1/4 inch spaces. And train it backwards. And then that inner one again. And this 1/2 one we're going to train in both directions, so I can bring it back. And so what we've got is our U shape, and then those 1/2 inch ones open out like that. So let me just work that one as well. So we've got that sort of shape, which just makes it easier for us to attach our tapes. So I've got some strong adhesive here. This is Sticky Paws by CoolKatz. Score tape, anything like that. Just not your regular double-sided, it's just not strong enough. Red liner tape would work. I just don't like red liner tape. It's just a personal thing because that red backing is just so static. It just gets everywhere. So I'm just cutting it in half so that I can get it onto that slimmer one. I just need a little bit more for the center. Then you can take off the tape backing, and on my spine I always add glue as well. So that tape is going to keep it in place for now, but a bit of glue will just make sure it stays there permanently. So if you remember now, we did those 2 guides, so let's bring it together. So my hinge bits are there. So when I squeeze it together to make that little triangle, if you can see it, what I'm going to do now is line up that triangle between those 2 dots, the 2 score lines, turn it over and onto the other. Now, because I was watching the camera rather than this, I have got some glue here, but it will dry clear I'm using the Cosmic Shimmer acrylic glue, and it really does just dry. You won't notice it later on. Just want to be aware I don't get the rest stuck onto it. So now I'm just going to put more double-sided tape right there, take it off, and so the reason I took the backing off before doing this was I would have had a tiny bit of overlap, so I took it off just so that I get all that contact. And some glue as well. So let's bring back our cover. So this is the inside. I'm now just going to hold it together, and I'm just going to centralize it so I'm even top and bottom and left and right. It's looking pretty good to me. And there we have the base of our album all made. We've got our hinge mechanism in there, and we've got our covers made. So I want that to dry a little bit. So whilst it's drying, let's prepare some of the cover papers. So for the cover paper, I've decided to go for this design here, just because it's got so much detail that it'll just cover my cover in one piece without me having to do much to it. And I don't want any bulk on it, so I don't want to add any embellishments, otherwise it's not going to fit into my box. So I went for this highly decorative paper, but I printed it twice to show you. That's for later on. This was printed with the fit to page method on my printer. This I clicked off the fit to page. So what I've got is the whole piece, but I've got a bigger white above and below. So what I'm going to use is this one, but that one would also have fitted fine, but this is just a bit larger for me to see. So I've printed off 2 sheets and a trimmer. So the way I mat and layer anything in my album is whatever size the piece is, I just cut each side 1/4 of an inch shorter. So let's just start by getting rid of the white edge. So I'm going to start with the top. Okay. Now my album cover is 9 inches tall. So instead of 9, I'm going to go back 1/4 to 8 3/4. And then it was 6 3/4 wide. So I'm going to go to 6 1/2. Keep this, that's important. So now that is going to cover that in one piece. Now my spine was cut at 1 1/4. So carrying on the pattern, I'm going to place this on my 1 inch and cut. So now you'll have that pattern repeat from there going around the spine. But before I do it on the spine, on the cover, I'm just going to take my black soot distress ink and just apply some to the edge, because what you'll get when you trim is a bit of a white edge on the paper. So this will just get rid of that, because we've got the black tape and black cardstock later. Having that black will just get rid of it. So now it's black on black rather than that white, which would probably catch your eye now and again. So there we have it. Now, if you're wondering what paper I've printed on, I use ice paper, and for my cover and boxes and stuff, I use my 190 GSM, but you can get it in lighter as well. But 190 goes through my printer lovely. It's nice and thick, and I think you can see the quality of the print between the images and that paper. It's great. So now I'm just going to cut one more piece for the back. So again, I'm going to keep that top. I'm going to cut from the White Rabbit side this time. And it was, if I remember correctly, 6 3/4, yeah, by 9. So 6 3/4 means I'm going back to 6 1/2. And the 9 means I'm going back to 8 3/4. But how lovely would this paper be if you cut all these out and use them as cards in your album? So any of those tuck spots or something you make, you could use these as your own little cards, little journaling areas. In fact, I think I've got another one of these printed, a spare one, which I might just do that later on. So let's bring it back. So this is the front. Try and get to the edge. Open it up and burnish it down. And now the spine bit. And just burnish it on. And you know, I'm just doing the cover really basic today, but the kit comes with so many extras. You could decoupage it up, just keep it flat, don't use any foam tape or anything, but just decoupage some extra images on top. So the main part of the Victoria Designs kits are their junk journal page, or the journaling pages, which are these. So you've got like a page in a book with a spine down the middle. So you could cut one of those out, place it on the front, nice and easy, and you'd still have a nice flat album to go into the box in the end. So there we have the outside of our cover done. So let's move on to the inside. So for the inside, I've done something a little bit different. Here, I've taken one of the pages, and what I've done is shrunk it down to the size I want. So down to the 6 1/2 by 8 3/4. So just shrunk it down in, I used Microsoft Publisher, Microsoft Word, whatever you got, whatever graphics package. So have a go. That's the great thing about digis, is you can make it fit your project. And what I did then, because I'm going to use the same image both sides, because it was digital, I flipped it. So now we've got two pages, but in the opposite direction. I mean, it did have some text, but I didn't think it was that clear that anybody was going to read it to actually understand that it's actually backwards. So just be aware of that. Don't use something which has got a nice paragraph written which you can read. And I could just use my trimmer, but I find it easier with the scissors like this when I want to be exact. There's one. is a bit where I actually go quiet, is my cutting. And the second one, almost done. There we go. So now you'll see, when I put them onto my cover, you can see a little bit of the white showing there and there. So what I'm going to do again, just take my distress ink. So if you can see the edge there, the white, it does actually show. So this is just camouflaging it. And it also hides any of my cutting which wasn't perfect, which a lot of it isn't. So just quickly taking my black ink all the way around. Lid on, so I know I'll get it everywhere. So let's have a look if we want Alice inside with them floating in. I think I quite like it like that, with sort of the arch of the playing cards. Now I've kept the inside just flat, but this is your chance here now to make it your own. If you wanted to add some pockets or something to the inside, go ahead. But I just thought these images were so lovely that I'm just going to go as they are. Move my spine, get my Teflon tool in. So this just helps to spread the glue as well underneath to get that even coverage. Just wipe off any of the excess. There we go. And our cover is done. So what we need now is some pages to go inside. So I'm going to put this aside and grab everything ready to make my pages. So to make the pages, I've printed off a load of the backing papers from the Wonderland Adventures papers, again onto my ice paper, 190 GSM, and it's the matte paper, so you can really see the detail in these images then. So I've got just a range of them. Look at that kaleidoscope of Alice. And some nice little border pages, some large imagery. So I've got a little bit, oh, that's the one I used on the box, wasn't it? With the white rabbit. So loads of different pages. So just print off a bunch. I've got my 220 GSM black cardstock, my scoreboard, which I can put away for a second, and my trimmer and my bone folder. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut 4 pages per album. So if you're going to make it all in one go, you're going to need to cut this 8 times. Now I'm just going to make the one page because each page is identical and I've already made the others. So for each page, you're going to need 2 pieces of cardstock. The first one, you're going to cut at 11.5 by 6.25. And then the other one, you're going to trim with the long side into your trimmer, just trim at 9.5. Now I've then just used the A4 width, but if you're not using A4 paper, just cut it at 8.25. If it's longer, it's fine. Just the pocket will be a little bit wider later on, so you don't need to worry about how wide it goes. And then, as I said, you will need to cut those. You'll need 4 of each per album. So let's bring my scoreboard back in. So with that long, narrow piece, let's score with alongside the 11.5 at the top. I'm going to score 1.5. Then I'm going to flip it around and score 1.5 again. So just repeating it, 1.5. Now if you want to do some curved bits, just take your corner rounder. I'm using my We Are Memory Keepers one here because it's got all 3 sizes. So I've got a large, medium and small. So I'll use a medium then when I come to mat and layer. Just corner round all 4 sides. Put them in the bin. Now with this, I've got my 8.25 along the top, and I'm going to score at 6.25 down. Now flip it around. I'm scored 1/2 inch on the left, turn it 180 degrees and repeat it the other side. And then repeat that on all your pages. So it becomes a bit of an assembly line really. Okay, so you can't really see the score lines here yet, but with this one, that's all we're going to do is just fold the 2, grab your Teflon tool. So the reason I use my Teflon tool rather than a plastic bone folder is it doesn't mark the black cardstock. Have you noticed if you're using a plastic one, sometimes you get those like white silvery marks? So that's all I do. I use my round bit just to start it off. Then I turn around to the sharper bit to get my sharper crease. So that's that one done. Again, you're going to do it on all 4 of yours. And then I'm going to attach my tape. So if we have a look, what I've got is my small pocket one here, this side of my score line, and these 1/2 inch ones top and bottom. So I'm going to place my tape within those 1/2 inch pieces. So I'm starting along the long one, and I'm stopping at the score line. And again, just up to that score line. Flip it over, and I'm going to do it on from the score line across that shorter bit, top and bottom. And now I'm going to cut the V up to that cross. There's a cross with the score lines. Just chop it out like that. And again on the other side, chop it to the cross, and from the other side. Okay. So this time we're going to fold this back, start it with the curved one, then get my nice sharp one. And again, curved side, and this is also burnishing my tape down. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to pull back those tabs, so that's now showing me where that double-sided tape is. And then when I fold this here, that's what's going to create my pocket. So let's get it all nice and flat. And there you have it. So what I can do actually is expose this tape. Let's get it pressed down now. So to attach our pages to the spine, what we're going to do is create a little pocket in between the pages like so. So then we can slot that over our spine later on. So I'm going to just expose a little bit just by folding my tape back. And I want this pocket, the folded edge of the pocket, to my left. Now I'm just going to line up this page with the flaps facing me on top. Hold them down. And now I can just peel off that tape. And now it's stuck down. So by only exposing a little bit, all of this, if it wasn't in the right place, I would have been able to move it easier. Whereas if I'd taken it all off, I've only got that one chance. So now we've got our pouch with two flaps here and a pocket here. So the reason we had it like that rather than like that is, if that's in your album and you're opening up your album this way, everything would fall out here, which I have done. I did one of the pages in my example, my first prototype, back to front, but there is a way we can salvage it, which I'll show you later on. So there we have it, one page done, and I've got page 2, 3 and 4 here, all in different states of finishing. Oh, this is the mistake one, which I'm going to show you later on. So let's start decorating. So let's grab the first piece of paper. So here we go. We're going to grab our trimmer and I'm going to cut my paper to 6 inches wide. So get rid of the white on 2 sides and then cut it at 6. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to have our continuation of our pattern all the way up our page when our flaps are open. So our flaps are 1.5 inches, which means to mat it, I need 1 1/4. If you remember, I just do it 1/4 of an inch less. So that's my bottom flap. So now I need my main piece, so I'm going to have to turn it around. And my page is 8.5, so I'm going to go to 8 1/4. So that'll go then to cover the middle piece. And then the top, again at 1 1/4. So there we have our 3 pieces, but we gave our page a little rounded corner. So I used the large 10mm one first, so now I'm going to go down to 7. So I'm going to do the tops of this one. And the bottoms of this one. Bring back my distress ink again, just get rid of that white edge. And then the top one. I know this isn't the most exciting thing to watch, but I think it is quite an important part of the process to see and to do, because it really does finish off your project nicely. So let's glue this on. Now I'm going to be showing you a tied method for closing it with a tie closure using string. But what you could do is you could add some magnets here to keep them shut, but I didn't think it would be strong enough, and I wanted to add more interest as well to my pages, so that's why I've gone for the other ties. But if you wanted to add some magnets at any point, remember to do so before you attach your paper. The centerpiece. And the bottom. And there we go. So now I'm going to leave those for a second and you'll see why in a moment. And I'm actually going to decorate now the back. And you can see I've actually decorated it on the wrong side. I had it upside down. So I could either go back now and peel it, or I'll show you the fixer on this one now. So usually I would have had the pocket that way. That's just typical, isn't it? But don't worry, that gives me an opportunity to show you that fixing moment now. So what we've got now is, this is the back of the first page and the front of the second. So I want the back of that and the front of this to match. And for this one, I'm actually going to use the same paper. Now when we go to number 2, we've got the same paper there. And then we've got some coordinating paper for the back of 3 and the front of 4. You can see I finished those ones already. So the reason I'm doing this before I do those two is because the waste from this is actually going to be what I use for here. So let's grab our trimmer. Oh, see, that was just typical. I think it was because I turned it around to show you how not to do it, and I ended up leaving it that way, didn't I? Okay, 6 inches. And funnily enough, it's going to be exactly the same as we did for the front. We're going to do 1 1/4, then 8 1/4, and another 1 1/4. So exactly the same measurements as before, but now this time you're going to cut your pocket bit from this piece. Now normally I would do it at 1 3/4 here, but because I've actually done upside down, I'm going to have to turn my paper upside down. I'm going straight through the Queen of Hearts, not the end of the world. Okay, so let's bring back page 1 and 2. So I said, normally it'll be that way round for you, okay? Don't follow my mistake. So let's just ink up this one. That's just typical. I did one the wrong way to show you, and I didn't need to because I'm actually going to show you the wrong way now. Okay. So let's glue them down. And you lift your pocket, so you tuck your paper inside and then place it down. And then place that one there. So you can see why I tell you not to do it this way around is when the page opens, everything's going to fall out. But because this kit comes with so many other things, I thought this was clever. For those who hate fussy cutting, there's actually a bleed line around it. So when you cut it out, it's much easier. So you could cut one of these out, or just for speed, you've got some square ones, some nice fancy shaped ones. What you're going to do is try and find an image that you like. So let's, because we've got the Queen of Hearts there. Let's use that one. So this is the fix. If you've done the same mistake as me, normally you wouldn't even have to do this, and you would just use these as your decorations. So were you all shouting at me, saying you've turned it upside down? Oh, those are the journal pages again, some more journal pages. How amazing are those images? And I'm going to show you another project using them. So what I can do now is I can glue just the right hand side and place it. Do I want it there so they're next to each other? Let's bring it down a bit, just so they're not right next to each other. So now, if you've got something inside, what can I use to show you that at this moment? Have I got anything? Let's make a 6x4 Photomat, is it? So to make a 6x4 Photomat, this isn't part of the tutorial, I'm just doing something so I can show you. So 6x4 Photomat, I'm going to do 1/4 inch bigger, so 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. So that would, I'd be able to put a photo onto that now. So now I could lift that, so I can put it in, and when I lift my page, this flappy bit will just stop everything falling out. So if you do a mistake like I have, that's a nice way to correct it. So now, if you remember, we cut off the top and bottom of these. From there, these are now going to make the top and bottom of our flaps. So my page 1 ones are actually going on to page 2. Oh, so that's the top one, so I've got to do it on this side. And glue them on. So you can see we've really made the most of our paper here by using the waist of the left page to finish off the right hand page. And the same, the waist from the top there. You probably won't tell, but it is the waist from there because it's the same sort of pattern. So this is the plain A4 page. This is the one with the tea time in the middle. I'm going to show you how to make that later on. And then the waist from the top, the clock came from that side for page 4. So then the back of page 4, I have this letter one. So what I'm going to do is take the waist from the last one, which I saved, and I've made it for page 1. That's only if you want to do it any other way, go ahead. That's just the way I've done it, just to save my paper, so I don't need to print off another sheet. So there's one. And two. So that's, now we've got page 1, 2, 3, and 4 all ready to go. Now I'm going to show you 2 closure. So I haven't done the closures in 1 and 2 because I was decorating now. But number 3, I've done a lot of zigzags with my cord. And number 4 has just got a single one. So I just thought I'd show you both just so you've got a bit of options. So that's all they are circles with a hole in them. But CoolKatz, which I'll link in the description below, they've just brought out some dies which cut circles, and they cut a tiny hole in the middle, and it cuts out 6 at a time. So really time effective little dies in 3 sizes. So these will mat onto these, and then these will mat onto these. So you could mat 3 times if you wanted, but I'm just doing 2. So here's the black one. So I cut the biggest one in black, and then I've cut a smaller one out of the scraps of my decorative paper. So let me just take some black soot around the outside. Now cutting 6 at a time means that I've got enough then to make my closure. So I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them already. So I just need to make 1 more. So 2 of them makes 1 closure, but because I'm doing, so this would be 6, 3 there and 3 there. So I need them in pairs. So each time I send this through, I'm making a pair of my folio closures. So I need another one for this guy. So let's have a look. So when you die cut, you get this little bevel. So this is the front. The back has sort of got a little raised edge. So what I'm going to do, this is the back. Take my glue around the edge. Take another one with my bevel up, so the correct size up. And when I put them together, you get a nice finish with a little bit of extra thickness. But again, if you've just cut circle punch with a hole in the middle, you can do that as well. Then the decorative paper will go on top, and I'm just lining up the hole. There we are. So that's now given me a double thickness. I'm going to take my little black brad, place it through the middle, then take my third black one and place it through just loose like that. So what that's done is given me a little gap in between. So I can take my bone folder and I can just create that little gap there, just stretch them apart. So get your finger in and just stretch them or separate them apart. So that is actually where your string is going to go. Yeah, so I'm just sort of training my card to separate a little bit. Go. So now I'm just going to grab some of my double-sided tape. Let's turn them over. And I'm going to just cut some little squares. And that's just going to help them to stay in place for the glue to have a chance to grab. I think this is a bit. I had a panic then, didn't know where my 6th one was. There he is. So we've got some tape on the back. So let's bring back number 1. And I'm just going to grab my ruler. Now my paper, not my cardstock, my paper was 6 inches wide. So if I line the edge of my ruler with my 0 with the paper, I can then place my first one right in the middle at 3 inches. There we go. So here's number 1. And now get into that gap and make that contact. And then left and right is up to you, but I'm just going to, so I lined up the middle of that circle with a 3. I'll line up this one with a 5 and this one with a 1. So it's 1 inch from each side then. Just nice easy numbers for me to remember, really. 5 and 1. So you want to give that a chance to dry. And again now, we're going to do the same on the bottom. So line it up with the paper, number 3. Now if I went through that a bit fast, don't worry, I'm going to do it again with the next one for page number 2, and they're going to be bigger, so you'll be able to, I'll take my time. So I'll be able to show you a little bit better with the bigger circles. And 5, 3, and 1. Okay. So this is a great closure as well. If you've forgotten to put your magnets or a closure on, you can come back and this can be done on top of your papers. Right, so let's put number 1 to the side. Let's bring in page number 2. So these are the Folio Circles by the CoolKatz, but they've also brought out some perfect circles. So you get a variety of circles and some of them have got the dots. And as you can see, they are much bigger. But you only get 2 of each, so you've got to do a little bit more cutting. So for each page you will need 6 of the larger ones. 1, 2, 3, and I've already done 1, so there's 3 there, and 2 of the decorative paper, which is the next one down. So if I put my dies to the side, I've already taken my distress ink around the edge, and I'm just going to glue this. If I bring up this die, which we get in focus, you'll see how one side has got that sort of ridge, but that's got the smooth bevel. So that's the top. And I'm just placing it with that hole in line. So turn it over. So this is the wrong side now. And I'm going to take with the glue, not too much, and I'm going to take my second one, correct size up, and place it on top. Line it up, roll it around, and just squeeze it between my fingers, like so. So that then find my brads. Here we are. So this now is my brad. It's going to go through the hole and then through the next one. So I've got the correct size side up and then just separate. And I've just done exactly the same here. So I can get my bone folder in here because I want to get my tape in there later, string in there later. Let's just open it up. Let's get some double-sided tape. So I said this tape is just keeping it in place for now, but it's the glue that will keep it there permanently. So this, I usually do this then across all my pages at the end, because whilst I'm doing this one, it's giving the other page a chance to dry. So again, putting in the middle at the 3-inch mark, turn over so you can see, and again top of the circle at 3 inches. So let me get my bone folder in there. Great. So now I'm going to set that off to dry and bring back number 1. So the string I'm using is just a 1mm, a wax thread. So I just find the wax is really good because it's giving you that extra lubrication and adds some stiffness to your cord. So I'm just going to tie it for the corset one. So call this a corset because it looks like a laced up corset. Just take my scissors and cut off the excess. So the way I do mine is from the top around this one, then diagonal up to this one. So you can see by taking my bone fold in between, it's just helped make those gaps so I can just go straight in. So make sure you're not trying to get in underneath if they haven't dried. Get in between the 2 cardboard pieces, around that way, and over the top. And then however much length you want. Then I've just taken a piece of black, which I've die cut a circle with, and then just another circle a bit smaller with my decorative paper, just to get a little black border. Oh, I've already put the tape behind that one. Let me put this on the next one ready then. Take off the backing. Place my cord onto that double-sided tape, and now, so these are just plain circles now. And that's my string cord end done. So you can see how now we've got that corset look with the string, which I think looks quite nice. Equally, here we go with this one. Did I lose my circle from earlier? Not the end of the world, I'll do it at the end. So with this one, it's up to you if you want to do the top or bottom first. I do the bottom, and then I work, if it's just one I'm putting on, I work in a 3. So I'm just tying it up around twice, getting the string in there. And then I work up, down, up, and then over. So here's one. So what I would then do is put that on the edge, but I think I might have dropped the other one that I already had. So I'll add that on. Oh, here we are. There we go. It's annoying when you've got a piece you know you've already done and you lose it. The amount of times I've redone one and then found it straight afterwards. And there we go, page 2. So we've got page 1, page 2, page 3, and page 4. So I've alternated corset, plain, corset, plain. But up to you if you want to do all corsets, fine. If you want to do all, just singles, fine. Okay. So let's now put my lid on my ink before it dries. Let's bring back our cover. And I'm going to start with page 4. I'm going to place tape down each of my spines. When I find it, here we are. So in that 1/2 inch score line we did, we're just going to run our strong tape. You do want your strong tape here. Now, if you were watching my spine one very carefully, I said if you go back a hair's breadth, it'll help you. This is where it'll help you. Because if you've gone back that hair's breadth, then that will just be slightly smaller than our pocket page. So when you slide it on, let me take this low tack tape off. There you go. If you've gone slightly less, then you've just got a little tiny bit of wiggle room to get that in. Like so. But what will help you as well is if you take your scissors and cut a little notch towards that score line, that will now help you slide on even easier. Okay, so let me come closer to the camera. What I'm doing, you can see that 1/2 inch score line there. I'm going from the edge of my card, cutting off. Just cutting towards that score line on all the top ones. And now just turn it over. Let's do the bottom ones. Okay. So now our spine is all prepared. Let me just burnish down the tape. Perfect. So I'm only putting tape on one side because it just helps me to be able to move a little bit more. If I had tape on the bottom as well, as I slide it on, it's going to stick as it goes in. So what I'm going to do is just run some glue down the back just to seal it, so nothing falls out the other side. We're just going to take our pocket page. I'm opening it up. I'm sliding it on. Making it look really tricky today. There we go. Let's just get it up in the air. There we are. Do you know what? I'm just going to take the tape off rather than fiddle. What is catching today? I had some glue from earlier in there. There we are. Perfect. So now I'm just lining it up with the top and bottom of my album here. So I'm lining up there, and now I'm squeezing down to make that contact. So it's just giving me a little bit of wiggle time. Let's just go for it now. So that's number 4. So now we want page number 3. Go. Again, lining it up with the page underneath. So I'm going to turn it side on. This is how I would normally do it if I wasn't on camera, so that's how I'm going to do it now. There we are. Much easier. Seal it. So now we're going to move on to number 3. And then page 2. Let's take that tape off. And let's open it up. Take it out of the way. Sliding it over. And then just one more to go. Page number 1, the one I did wrong. Let's just slide it on. And there we go. So now we have our album complete. So we've got our pages, and because we've got that double hinge, it all lies flatter, so we haven't got everything just sticking up like that. It all lies flat. We can use the cords then to open up, and each of these then is like a wallet. So let's have a look at what comes in the kit. So we've got these journal pages, and these journal pages are great as photomats or photo wallets. So all you got to do is cut them out, score down the middle, and here's one I prepared earlier. Just cut out and scored down the middle, then just took my black soot just around the edge on the front and back. So what you can do now is these can go, let me not go for the wrong one, inside your pocket. They can go in there, but also these were designed, actually let me go get the one which has just got a single one. It'll just be a little bit quicker, won't it? These policy type placements was perfect just to put them on, place it in, and just putting in your journal page. So that was a little fab idea. Or what you can make is a little photo wallet to put them in. So I'm going to show you how to make one of these. They're a little bit thicker, so they're perfect to go into here, because you can slide that bit in there and just have that bit hanging loose. So it's kind of making a flap which you can pull out and store your photos in there. So let's make one of these. Now because it's going inside one of my albums, I'm using a bit of a thinner weight. I think this is a 160 rather than the 220. So it's an A4 piece, and that's all I'm doing is I'm scoring it at 5 3/8. So 5 and 1, 2, 3. See, I'm very technical there. 5 3/8. Just go to 5 and count 3 across, and then at 10 3/4. So we've got that little bit left over, which is what we want. Let's bring in my Teflon tool again, and I'm just scoring it. Not scoring, I'm burnishing it down, and then burnishing it down here as well. Then I'm just going to add some glue here and here. So you see, no cutting, no trimming, just 2 score lines and done. And then you just take your journal page. Trim off the white. Now this is one of the ones, like I said at the start, I printed this with the fit to page turned off. So when I clicked it off, I didn't lose a bit off the top and bottom. If it fitted to page, it would have stretched the left and right out and made the top bigger, which had gone off my page, which I didn't want. So yeah, so I took it off. Then I'm just going to fold it in half and just crease a little bit there. That's my halfway point. Bring in my trimmer. There's halfway, there we are. Taking the black soot. So I'm going to put this on the front. Get that black border, and then you could decorate the inside as well. Just if you're going to do that, remember you're going to trim a bit off to mat that and then glue it, because you're not going to get that in now because of the glue. So I just used it on the back. I just realised I haven't gone on with the black soot on this one. Let's just go around. I haven't been as careful as I normally would there. There we go. So that now has made you a little photo wallet. So now these photo wallets, take off the measurements, there we go, are perfect for going into here, underneath those flaps, but also you can actually slide them into the pocket page. So if you made 4 of these, you can just fill in there, and then you've got room for photos here, you've got room for photos here, you've got room for photos in here, you've got loads of spaces for your memories. And just to show you what else you could be using, in the journal kits, you get these little folio bits. So you could just cut one of those out. You've got a score line down the middle, fold in half. Now those would be good tucked in behind these corset pages. There's also one, I think I've forgotten to print it out though, which has got an envelope. If you like small little photos, you could use these small little journal cards to make exactly the same as we did earlier. You know, just the single ones where you can just drop your photos in and they slide in there. But just a smaller one, or tucked in there. Or that would be where you're going to tuck it underneath there and in there. Is that going to work? It's not. But if you had your smaller photos, that's where, oh hang on, there we are. That flap does fold. So even though it's a mistake, it still works. And all our little closures, all from our little scraps going in. And our photo wallets. So I said, with the DigiKit, we've been able to resize. We've been able to print just the ones we journal junk journal or your journal pages are fab for your photo wallets. So you can see it breaks up the colours there. Let me just tuck it in, keep that flap up, otherwise it gets too thick. See, it just breaks it up, doesn't it? So there we go. There's your photo album. And once you've made 2 of them, you can then grab your magazine box. So this is one without the white rabbit. We can drop them both in like that. You can see how they fit. And then our lid will just go on top. So I might just have to do it sideways just to show it, because yeah, it is quite a large project. There we go. You can just see the corners of your albums. They then come out and you've got your magazine. So as I said in the box one, if you just wanted to make the one box, it's just going to tuck in like that, and you can just have that as its own project. Or maybe put the white rabbit onto this one instead. But the reason I didn't do that was I would have cut off his ears, which I didn't want to do. Okay, so there's our main project made. Our magazine box with 2 memory albums to fit inside. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the project. I know it's quite a long one, but I think it's worth it. You've got quite a substantial project in the end. So if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button and click those thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It really means a lot to me. Please leave me comments as well. Tell me what you think. But now that I've done this one and we've used those junk journal pages, I think I've got another idea. So I may be back pretty soon with a little extra bonus project. So keep an eye out for that, and see you all again soon. And for now, happy crafting.